Let's return to This Week in America. Here's your host, Rick Bratton.
Welcome back, everybody, coast to coast. This Week in America. Radioactive Era of Change, We the Kindred by Isaiah Lopez is a compelling science fiction book that takes the reader through stimulating adventure, action, and intense drama. Hollywood Book Reviews calls it a thrilling adventure into a complex world of superpowers and conspiracies that would give Marvel's The X-Men a run for their money. A must-read, not to be missed. This is a sequel to Isaiah's critically acclaimed Radioactive Era of Change, which we've talked about on This Week in America. A meteor has left the world forever changed. People within the blast zone have amassed incredible powers. The land is left quarantined from America. One such man awakens with new power and a missing arm. As he copes with this changed world, he bonds with new allies and reunites with old friends as a grim plot threatens to engulf his new way of life. Isaiah, the author, was born in a military family, raised across the U.S., found himself a jack of all trades in an attempt at searching for the lifelong dream. Well, he's found his calling, building worlds, creating fantastical environments, and page-turning plots. Suspense, drama, and action in Radioactive Era of Change, We the Kindred. And we welcome back to This Week in America, the author, Isaiah Lopez. Isaiah, welcome back. Great to have you back with us.
Hey, well, good to be here.
I really have great admiration for the worlds that you create, the powers, the storylines, all of the action in your books. What inspired you to become a writer, and how do you get your inspiration for your stories? Because these are amazing, literally out of this world stories. Where did this come from, being a writer and developing all these stories?
At first, it was just kind of like a school project back in middle school that I just decided to really like. And then I guess what really kicked it off was just all these other kind of African-American leads and all these other shows, like Static Shock, the more recent Spider-Man movies. That's just like, well, we can always have more, you know?
Well, and you've done it so well. The books, the two that we're talking about, available at Isaiah's website, which is very simple, author IsaiahLopez.com. Books are available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, all the usual places. You can order them from Isaiah's website as well. Links at our website, thisweekinamerica.us. The characters often feel very real. How do you go about developing your characters? And we sort of see their evolution during the course of the book as well. Sometimes the character at the beginning is not the same character we see at the end because they go through an evolution. How do you go about developing the characters?
People watching, for starters.
Interesting.
Yeah, you just gotta watch how they do it, look at their reactions, and kind of put yourself in their shoes every now and then to really get like a feel for them.
And it's interesting, I mentioned as you go through the books, there's maybe subtle changes, but they evolve as we all do. Talk about that aspect of it, that you have the plot moves along, but the characters go through an evolutionary period as well. Talk about developing that and the challenges in having these characters be real life and changing as we all do.
Oh, yeah, it can be difficult keeping up with so many characters and their evolutions in life, but it's just kind of like, I'd say any sort of any good TV show, I'd say, where their characters will evolve and learn from their past and mistakes and whatnot.
Do you learn from that, from reading other books, from television series, even movies, how others do character development, how they move the story along? Is that like sort of going to college for you in watching some of these shows? You don't necessarily watch for the entertainment, you watch sort of get some clues.
Yeah, I've certainly found inspirations from plenty of shows like Avatar, Last Airbender, the Steven Universe, Adventure Time. They're as silly and childish as they may end up starting. They are very heavy on character development.
Yes. With us back on the program is Isaiah Lopez. The book we're talking about is Radioactive Era of Change, We the Kindred. Book available at Amazon, the usual places. I thank Conquest Digitals for arranging our conversation today. And, of course, information at Isaiah's website, author IsaiahLopez.com. Isaiah, when you create a plot, Do you meticulously plan every detail ahead of time, as some authors do? They have it all laid out before they start writing. Or do you sort of let it grow organically as you're writing and sort of see where the characters want to take you?
Oh, it's very organic. I'll maybe point at a direction for it to go, but they'll probably steer left, do loop-the-loops all over the place. I'm just kind of watching the characters go and just kind of writing what they do.
It sounds like you're sort of waiting, can't wait for the next chapter to see where the story's going. The author's going through that just like we are, and can't wait to see how that develops. I want to go back for a second and talk about developing characters and then the plot would come out of that. Do you have like a whiteboard where you write down all these different characters so you can sort them out and keep them straight in your mind and do that with the plot as well? How do you go about organizing all of this?
Very poorly, I'll say. It's mostly just kind of notes at the bottom of the recent file I've been working on. But beyond that, it's kind of chaotic.
Well, you know what? It works for you. So that is the important thing. I guess everybody has to find the method that works for them. And for Isaiah, that works as well. Receiving excellent reviews. I mentioned Hollywood Book Reviews and so many others that are very positive. What challenges do you face as a writer, and how do you go about overcoming those? It's not as simple, I'm sure, as sitting down at the computer or the notepad and things just fire off, automatically. What are some of the challenges, and how do you get around those?
Ooh, there are some challenges. Certainly making the time to actually get on there and write things down. But even then, there's like a writer's block. There's food. You need to keep yourself sustained, sleep, so you don't stress yourself out. And it's just an unbalanced balance.
Well, that's an interesting way to say that, and I was going to ask you about this balance with writing and other aspects of your life. You have, as I understand, a full-time job. You write. You've got a personal life as well. Do you have a strategy for avoiding burnout? I would think that would be very easy to get consumed in this world that you've created, especially when things are flowing and you really don't want to leave that world, but you have to from time to time. How do you avoid burnout?
Video games and TV.
Interesting. And that works for you. If you switch over to a video game, it sort of takes your mind off the world that you've created.
Yeah, sometimes it'll be like a mind-numbing strategy thing, or other times it's just like a fast action shooters. Just like change the tempo from what I'm writing and to what I'm planning on doing, just to kind of do like a soft reset on my thought process.
It's interesting, and that's good advice for all of us. You don't have to be an author. You could be tied up in something, and you need to break away from that. And using the technique that Isaiah is using, it works effectively for him. How do you hope readers connect with your books, the characters, the plot lines, and what kind of emotions or messages do you hope to convey?
Emotions and messages, something of like appallment, I guess, towards like politics and how egregious it's been throughout pretty much our lives, especially the American politics. That's all just a mess there.
Yes.
Though it's certainly trying to improve, I suppose. Can't fault it for that.
Well, and you touch on those, and you touch on some of the struggles that we have, organ and human trafficking, the fear of those different from ourselves. That, I'm sure, is intentional on your part to get us. We're in this world, but we sort of have to make, comparisons to what we're going through, and it may help us to think through some of the issues we're struggling with.
Oh, yeah. We're all, as you said, we're all in this world. We're all the same people. We're just look slightly different through the environments we found ourselves growing up in.
Well, we face that in this new book by Isaiah Lopez, our guest on the program. The book is Radioactive, Era of Change, We the Kindred. The book is available wherever books are sold, and you will find this as well as the first book, Radioactive, Era of Change, both on his website, authorisaachlopez.com. You can order there as well and link on by going to our website. What do you hope the readers take away from your books, and how do you want your work to impact them? Impact them. it's not just a good story, but there's so much more into the story. What do you hope the takeaway is and the impact it leaves with the reader?
I want people to kind of like look up things on their own, not just to follow whatever the first thing they hear on some sort of media platform. I want them to get like all sides of the story, because it's not like a left or a right. It's just kind of like the story,
Yes. And you do that as you read this. You start, your mind starts to sort of slow down and thinking about how the applications that has with real life. The book is so well done. Radioactive Era of Change, We the Kindred by Isaiah Lopez, our guest on the program. Any upcoming projects that you can talk about, ideas that you're currently exploring that you feel free to mention during the course of the conversation?
Oh, of course. You got the sequel for starters, and then just a bunch of other little like fun projects I've been doing to sort of do like a soft reset from this story, Got one about kind of questioning religion to a fault. Got others just kind of guy just goofing off, having its own little adventure, and others just like a self. Wow, what is that word? Like they're understanding themselves, growing themselves.
Yeah, sort of a self-awareness type of situation. It's I get the impression your mind works pretty much 24 hours a day, maybe even the sleep too. So I'll include sleep time in there as well. Is that the case? Is your mind always going 100 miles an hour?
Yeah, like 110 miles an hour.
There are no speed limits in the mind of Isaiah Lopez, our guest of The Thoughts Keep Coming. What type of legacy would you like to leave as a writer, as an author, in putting these books, Radioactive Era of Change, out there? What do you hope, how do you hope you'll be remembered, the place of these books in the literary world?
I'd like to inspire awareness, to like have the foresight to look things up and figure things out for themselves, instead of, like I said, just kind of going off the first thing they hear on a social media platform.
In reading reviews, so many talk about the fact that you make this understandable. You're taking a world that we don't know anything about, and sometimes authors get all caught up in the technology and description, and they over-describe. We want to have a story that moves. You're able to write in a very succinct way and keep the story moving. Talk about your writing style, because you keep us, we can't wait for the next page. You write, you do it directly, and move on. Talk about your style.
Well, I'll certainly take time to research a sort of situation and then try to summarize it how I would better understand it, like explaining it to myself. And I guess that just works.
Well, it does. The story moves along. There are shocking twists as you go through. Do you know when the twists are going to come, or is that something that you're working on and it's like a character is saying, hey, take me in this direction? Do you plot some of these, or do they just sort of happen?
Oh, no, they just happen. I'll surprise myself sometimes.
Do you have visually sort of, as you're writing, visually, do you sort of see these characters and what they're going through?
Yeah, that's in like a mental perspective. If
Yes.
I had time to like draw it all out, this would probably be a comic instead.
Well, that's interesting because there's a visual aspect of that. Obviously, we can see the characters and see what they're going through. Any thought that you'd like to take Radioactive Era of Change, We the Kindred, and the original Radioactive Era of Change, and do in comic form, or do as a movie or a short feature of some kind?
Yeah, I think that'd be very fun to do. At least a comic book,
Yeah, and somebody needs to pick up on that. So if you're listening and you know somebody that can help with creating this into visual form, go ahead and contact Isaiah. You can reach him at his website. Who are some of the authors that inspire you now, that you like to read, that you can not only be entertained but maybe pick up some tips, some ideas from? Who motivates you?
Ooh, I'm very bad with names, but it's certainly the creator of The Land. That's like a lit RPG or book
Yes.
series, and then the creator of Steven Universe, Adventure Time, Static Shocks, Spider-Man, just all kinds of like sci-fi fantasy type shows.
Obviously a voracious reader and takes those stories and is not only, like I say, entertained by them, but is able to maybe make some applications in his own stories. Let's talk a little bit about when you're developing the characters. You mentioned the research you put into this. Talk about that, because science fiction, we want to have it somewhat believable. How do you do science fiction and make sure you rein it in a little bit, that this actually is a possibility?
It's like I guess railguns would be an example. We can research that. We can research that.
Yes.
And it is a thing that things are being made and processed, and then it's explaining how it's done, and then you can just summarize it with your own words and allow I guess the readers to understand it better.
Talk about the premise that you developed in Radioactive Era of Change and Radioactive Era of Change, We the Kindred. Talk briefly just about that story and where the story goes from here. Will there be a follow-up to this?
Oh, yeah, there will certainly be a follow-up, but that's slow going. But it's like after Radioactive, the main characters and all of his people are making a little nation in like the DMV area. And America starts to help, but then the next election, different different leaders, different ideas on what they try to do for their country, and then everything just kind of goes downhill for that because they're no longer like seeing eye to eye.
Well, it's so fascinating, all the different elements. You've got a powerful conglomerate that comes into the picture as well. And just when you think maybe everybody is going to work together, you find that that's not necessarily the case. It's just a compelling story. I want to reread again as we conclude here the Hollywood Book Review, because this is so flattering. A thrilling adventure into a complex world of superpowers and conspiracies that would give Marvel's The X-Men a run for their money. A must read, not to be missed. That really, if you were probably going to sit down and write a review yourself, that's maybe what you would come up with. That was so flattering, and the comparison there. What's it like to be the published author, to be doing this, and to be receiving reviews like this, because they're all very favorable?
Yeah, it was great. I completely forgot about that one, and then it's like hearing it now, I'm still kind of getting a little rosy in the cheeks.
Well, I read it twice. I could see the cheeks getting rosy in the visual version of this. You'll find, by the way, if you want to watch the interview, you go to YouTube and Google it, or go to our website, thisweekinamerica.us. From someone who started at a young age as a class assignment to the point now where you're a published author. You have several books that are out there receiving reviews like this, and this is typical of the reviews that Isaiah receives. What is this like? Do you ever got to stop and sort of think, wow, that's my name on that book cover, and people all around the world are reading my story and enjoying the book that I just wrote? What's that like?
I'd say it's surreal.
Yeah. And probably takes a while for that to set in and realize that others are sharing the story, just like you've done through your life and reading other people's work and enjoying it and being motivated by it. People are doing that with Isaiah's work as well. This book is Radioactive, Era of Change, We the Kindred. The author is Isaiah Lopez. That's ISAIAH Lopez. His website is authorisaiahlopez.com. Book available at Amazon, Barnes & Noble, the usual places. My thanks to conquestdigitals.com for arranging our conversation today. The second time we've had a chance to chat with Isaiah, and hopefully we can do this again. Isaiah, it's been a pleasure having you back in the program. Love what you've done in this book, Radioactive, Era of Change, We the Kindred. Look forward to our next conversation. Thank you for being with us on the program.
All right. Yeah, thank you.
It is our pleasure. Isaiah Lopez. The book is Radioactive Era of Change, We the Kindred. His website is very simple, author.isaiahlopez.com. Go to our website and link on directly to Isaiah's website. You're listening to This Week in America, and we're back on today's program right after these messages.
This Week in America is online. You can visit our website, thisweekinamerica.us. Scott Pinkerton, Associate Producer of This Week in America. Jay Anderson, Segment Producer. Ben Watson, Webmaster. Otto Bechet, Director of Engineering and TV Production. This Week in America produced and is a trademark of Blue Funk Broadcasting, LLC. For information on all of our guests and to listen to this week's show, our website again at thisweekinamerica.us. And I'm Sean Bratton, Executive Producer of This Week in America.